everyone, it's Charisma,
And it's Cameron.
and welcome to Bruin Table Talk.
This month we've been celebrating Black love.
And what better way to celebrate Black love than to have on two UCLA alumni, Kevin Jordan and Jenny Johnson Jordan. Okay, so first we'll start with Jenny Johnson Jordan, graduated from UCLA with a bachelor's degree in communications in 1996. During her time at UCLA, she played on the women's volleyball team and won an NCAA national championship, along with earning all Pac-10 conference first team 2 times in 1993 and 1995. During her professional career, she won FIVB World Beach Championship in 1996 and gained a silver medal at the same championship 2 years later. She also participated in the Olympics in both 2000 and 2004. After her professional career, she began coaching and is now the current associate head coach for beach volleyball at UCLA. She helped lead the Bruins to back-to-back national championships in 2019.
Kevin Jordan, UCLA class of 1995, played football for the Bruins and received All-American honors his junior year. After graduating, he continued his career in the NFL, and after the NFL, he began his missionary work with Athletes in Action and also became a chaplain for the UCLA football team. He then went on to be the chaplain for the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he was a part of their Super Bowl winning team. And after his time with the Steelers, he and Jenny moved back to LA, where they started the For the Journey ministry and served as a chaplain for the UCLA women's basketball team. So how are y'all doing? How's it going?
Great.
Wow.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
No problem. We're so excited to have both of you guys on.
Yes, for sure. So let's get these questions started. And with this theme of Black love, we have to ask, how did y'all meet and how did this love story really begin?
I like for him to start telling the story first, and then I can fill in the parts.
She'll fill in. So, so we're a year apart in school. So a year ahead of her. And so at the end of my second year, spring quarter, second year, I met Jenny. Actually, we shared the same dorm in Saxon Suites, and we had to go across the street to Reber to eat. And so I remember one day walking to get something to eat. She was leaving, and I was heading inside, and I saw her. It was just she and I, and just walked right past each other. And that was the first time I really noticed her. The entire time, I didn't really have any relationships with anybody on the volleyball team up until that point, and so. First time I saw her was at that moment, and I was like, wow, who is that? And we had some mutual friends, ironically enough, on the women's basketball team, and I began to ask questions about her, and later found out, a little bit more about her. And from that moment on, it was April of 1992, I started pursuing her, trying to check out, see if she had a boyfriend or anything like that, and so I pursued, and the rest is history.
Yep. Very, very accurate.
That's so cute, and that's so cool to have found someone in college. I love that for you guys. Okay.
Yeah, well, I will say one thing though too, that once I kind of had heard that Kevin had some interest, I did do my homework on him, and he came with an impeccable record. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll check out this guy, see what he's about.
So funny, I love that. Okay, so next question. If you could create a definition of Black love based on your own love, what would it be?
Great question.
Good. No, you start.
I think for me, when I think of love, for me as a man of faith, as a Christian, I think about God's love for me. And we oftentimes go to weddings and we hear the definition of love read at ceremonies. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, it talks about love is patient and love is kind. And I think that for me is the gold standard for love across all relationships. And so when I look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4-8, I oftentimes have to remind myself that this is what true love is all about. This is what I desire to, have throughout all my relationships, specifically, obviously, with my wife and my children. But I think that's the standard, the North Star that defines love for me and in our relationships. And so I'm oftentimes going back to it and seeing how how far short I fall in terms of getting it right, in terms of just what true love, agape love is, that unconditional love, the love that God has for me and for the world. And so for me, that's kind of how I start there. And then I kind of work through like just kind of think about how I want to be loved myself. And so that's kind of where I go.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we definitely see that aspect of love as foundational in the same way. And then I maybe would take it even a step further and just, you know, understanding too the hardship sometimes, but also the beautiful celebrations there are for us as Black people. And, you know, using that same definition of love and supporting and loving each other through the highs and lows that just come with being a Black female and a Black male.
I just love that. And something you touched on, like the highs and lows of being Black people through Black love. So in those lows or even in those highs, like what makes your love work? Like with those times that you might not be able to stand each other, or those times where everything is great, what makes your love work?
Wow. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, it's ultimately it's God's grace, His strength, because there are moments where that happens, where it's like, well, we just celebrated year 24. We've been together for almost 30 years. And so we know each other well. We know how to push each other's buttons well. But I think we're called to a higher standard. You know, we want to make our marriage work. There's a lot of marriages. I come from a broken home. My parents divorced, and unfortunately, you know, we have a lot of that going on in society. And so I think it starts with just our mutual desire to want to honor our covenant with God and one another. And we know that we can't do it alone. We know we need support, but it starts there for us, our desire to want to have a strong marriage, therefore a strong family for our children and all of that. So for me, it's just more just coming back to the reality of what my heart's desire is, and realize that, it's not, I think growing up, you see these movies and you watch these love stories and you think it's all just based on just your feelings and it's lovey-dovey and all that. And then you learn that it's not that. It's like, the feelings, not that they completely fade, but you go through your ups and downs. So it has to be so much more. Your marriage has to be grounded in so much more than just feelings, because there are times that you don't feel like being married. And I think it comes back to what your goal is, what you desire, and realizing that you have to, I think for both of us, I know for myself for sure, is that I have to humble myself. And I think that's a starting point, is just to walk in humility when those times come where you just know that, you just kind of realize that you're not living up to what you want to live up to in your marriage. So
yeah, and just understanding too, I think, even though we've been married for so long, we're still two very distinct, different people. In a lot of ways we're similar, but in a lot of ways we're complete opposites. And so just trying to have the understanding of like, what are the things that fill my tank, that I want to do, that I need to do, and what are the things that fill his tank that he needs to do. And sometimes they're the same things, sometimes they're completely opposite things. And so having that understanding too. And I think for me, just coming from the home I came from, my mom's white, my dad's Black, and that had its own set of challenges and things that they had to deal with and support each other through, in terms of not within their marriage, but from the outside coming in. And so seeing them navigate that, support each other, I think was huge in me moving forward in my own marriage and how I wanted it to be.
I love that. And definitely what you said, Kevin. We see a lot of movies where it looks like love is just so great, so romantic, so lovey-dovey, the honeymoon phase, as people were to call it. But when it gets down to it, it might not be like that. And I know that love that you share definitely goes on to your kids as well.
Yeah, well said, Cam. You guys have talked about your love with each other, and like Cam, I'm sure you guys both love your kids so much. What has loving your kids meant to you guys, and how has it been just loving your kids in times during racial injustices?
Well, for me, I mean, I grew up, again, I think my family of origin and just some of the things that I experienced growing up. And, we had a good childhood. I mean, unfortunately, our parents did split up and then divorced when I was in high school. And so I lost a lot relationally with my father and didn't realize that until I got older. And so for me, growing up, I always wanted to be a dad. And that was like a strong desire for me. And I always wanted to be a girl dad. And so that was my strong desire to, because I grew up with two brothers, I'm the middle. So it's like, man, I really wanted to have a girl around. And so when we found out we were expecting our first child, we were debating whether or not we wanted to find out the gender. And we were on the same page saying, yes, we did, up until we got into the room and they asked us to get, and Jenny changed her mind. I didn't change my mind. So the lady took me outside and told me that we were going to have a girl. And I was just extremely excited. So for me, it starts with just that desire I've always had to be a dad. And then when we found out we was expecting a second child, I was asking myself, how important is it for me to have a son? I've had my girl, and do I really need to have a boy? And I didn't think I did, but when we found out that we were having a boy, I was super excited. So for me, again, just having a girl and a boy, and just that desire being fulfilled and being a father, just the love I have in my heart for my kids is limitless. And so I think about the things that I lacked with my father. Once I got to be a teenager and beyond, as soon as I graduated from high school, I moved all the way out to California. So we just missed out on a lot. And so for me, I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to Jenny, was the fact that she loved children, she loved family, and we both had that in common. And so, I think just that deep love and desire of wanting to be a dad and just wanted to do the best I could, and it's really helped propel me throughout the different stages of our children's lives. And there's times where I don't feel like I know what I'm doing, but it's just such a joy. And as they've gotten older, and as you asked about the times that we're living in, and especially at their age, at almost 16 and almost 20, they're smack in the middle. They totally understand what's been happening over the last year, particularly over the last year. And we've had some great conversations about some of those things that I'm sure we can get to later on in our conversation. But it's just been good to be able to now have those conversations and just being open and honest and transparent with them. So.
And I will say this, Kevin is a great dad. And I really, for myself growing up, felt like I had the gold standard in dads. And I know I wanted to have a great dad for my kids. And like Kevin said, I knew very early on I wanted to be a mom. I think I was 7. And I was that kid in elementary school who was like adopting the younger kids. And we would go on the playground and play together and find them at every recess. And every year it would be somebody different. And I loved babies growing. I mean, I always knew I wanted to be a mom. That was never a doubt for me. And I think as they get older, it changes. And when they're first born, it's very like you're just providing for them. And then as they get older, it becomes much more intentional in your interaction with them, especially over this last year, the conversations that we have, because our job as parents is really to prepare them to be on their own and to be their own individual people, to think for themselves, to figure out what they believe and where they stand on things. And so it's been great this last year. Not only because of the racial justice issues, but also because of COVID, we've had so much more time together to have those conversations. And we just enjoy being with our kids, honestly. I mean, they're so much fun. We laugh all the time. We joke around, we prank each other. I mean, we do have a lot of fun, and it's been great this last year having that extra time with them. And, that being said, I think as a parent, you're always nervous to kind of have them leave the nest, whether it's just driving for the first time and they're more independent, or going to college. And so, of course, in the back of my mind, there's always a little bit of fear there of the unknown and what might happen to them, and just trying to equip them as much as possible to be able to navigate certain situations the best they can.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about like the conversations and equipping them for basically like life after the nest. Were there any things you like taught them at younger ages? Like, because me and my mom, we had the conversation about like interaction with police officers, like specifically because she knew I was a Black woman going to be on the road, and there was just certain things I needed to know how to do. Did you have like those type of conversations with your kids as well?
I think we've had those conversations more recently, honestly. I think especially, well, Corey's going to be at the age where he's going to be driving soon and going to be out on his own in a car by himself. And so I think we are very cognizant and aware of things that could potentially happen to him just because he is a Black male. And then the same thing for Jalen too. And a lot of that with her is just overall safety too, being a female, you know, being out in the world by yourself late at night, like you have to be careful with things. So we've definitely had those conversations with them, I would say more recently.
And I was just thinking, unfortunately, they've had, we were talking about modeling as parents, and I've had the unfortunate pleasure of modeling to my kids how to handle a traffic stop because I've been pulled over a couple times. You know, they were a lot younger, but you know, for going faster than I thought I was going. But and again, I wasn't cognizant. This is well before a lot of the times that we're living in now. In terms of it wasn't as sensitive as things are now, but just, you know, I knew they were watching me, you know, and I knew that they were in the car and trying to be the best I could be in terms of just modeling for them as far as how to conduct yourselves and when you're in the wrong or when you are. You fess up and all those kinds of things. And so for me, I think, you know, these kind of conversations are ongoing for us. It's not like, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about everything all at one time. It's just, you know, we hear a story, we talk through it a little bit. But I couldn't help but be reminded of the fact that they saw me, you know, and how I interacted when I got stopped and then I have to break it down and say, hey, you know, there are times where you know, you're going to get caught and you have to, you know, deal with it. And you know, but there's another side of things too, where you may not feel like you've done anything wrong. And so how do you handle yourself in those moments as well? So those are some difficult conversations, but I think those are conversations that we're, you know, well on our way of having and with the kids, and it's been fun for them to interact with.
Yeah, I'm sure your kids would say that you guys are great role models because I know a lot of us on the women's basketball team look up to you guys. But yeah, it's cool that you guys are having those conversations with your kids because I feel like everyone needs to have those hard and like difficult conversations. So that's cool that you guys do have those.
So now to everyone's favorite part of the interview, we're gonna get into some fun questions.
Oh, okay. I don't think I knew about this.
Yeah, this is a surprise. Okay.
They're always a surprise. So I'm gonna stir the pot just a little bit. So what is a pet peeve that you and each other, like you just know that's gonna get on each other's nerves? Like what is that one little thing?
Just one?
He probably has a lot for me, honestly.
Yeah. We'll stick with one to two-ish.
I'm gonna let Jenny start.
I will say it's not so much a pet peeve, it's more of just like how it's an example of how we're different. So like he's a planner. He like, if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. Me, I'm just like, oh, I wanted to go do this. Oh, you know, how long we got? I don't know. We got 3 or 4. I don't know. I just kind of like to be a little more spontaneous and go with it. And so I think it's not really a pet peeve, but it's a one way we're very different where it's like, if it's not on the calendar for him, it's not happening. So.
Yeah. Not in all cases, but a lot of times it's like that. Yeah, and I'm not like extreme neat freak, but I like things in order. And so one of the pet peeves, I don't like to really see things on the floor and around the house. You know, I just like things to be up off the floor and whatnot. And so it's just something I have to constantly battle with our family, to keep things clean and all that. And with Jenny, because
I'm like a tornado.
Jenny probably has 1,000 bags.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, half of them are probably around the house somewhere on the floor. And so I'm constantly learning how to exhibit self-control. And a lot of times I don't get that right. But by keeping my mouth shut, I got to keep testing myself. Just don't say nothing, Kevin. Just let it be. So that's one I would say for me.
That's so funny. Okay, so my question is, you guys probably spent a lot of time together in quarantine. What was your guys' funniest moment together or just like with your kids?
Oh gosh, funniest moment. I don't know. You know?
Nah.
Okay,
I mean, well, we started out, we started off quarantine. It was awesome. We had a lot more structure in how we spent time together. For those first 2 or 3 weeks, it was pretty much on point in terms of just kind of us sitting around the table, having dinner, and then we'll go and play up board games and things of that nature. And so it was really cool to be able to do that. But we noticed how after a few weeks, we needed space. So a lot of times we would be each in our own corners, kids upstairs in their rooms, and Jenny and I had our separate rooms and things of that. So that's for us. I mean, it was kind of fun for us to be able to do that. But then, after a few weeks, we needed some space.
I think
so that was fun.
Well, a funny thing what our daughter did say was she announced the family. She's like, okay, because we were together a lot, obviously, as most people were. There was no like schedule or anything. She's like, okay, we're gonna make 3 1.5-hour periods where we can just be by ourselves and do what we want. I'm like, 3 1.5 periods. That's like 4.5 hours a day. So we were laughing about that, where it just is like that point where we were always together all the time. Where like, she and I are wired very similarly. So like trying to do our own thing and stuff. But yeah, that actually was pretty funny because it was like coming to the end of the being together all the time. It just was too much at one point. So we balanced out, figured it out.
No, that's really funny. I completely understand that. I would have asked for like the 4 1.5-hour period.
Yeah.
So one last final question. Okay, like what's a word of advice you would give to younger Black kids, younger Black couples, even your kids about basically like the whole love process or like looking for love?
Take your time, get to know people. I think that's the biggest word of advice that I would give to my daughter is just take your time. As far as you talking about dating relationships and really get to know people. Don't just stop with just how someone looks on the outside, but really find out what values you share together and make sure that they align with each other, because those are the things that are going to carry you through in your relationships moving forward, is those values and those convictions that you have individually and as a couple. And so I would definitely say that is one of the things that I will share with you and my daughter, my kid. Just take your time and really get to know people before taking it to that next level.
I would actually reiterate that too. I'd say the same thing. I know, same thing. That's the advice I would give my kids. Honestly, take your time. Like, you have time. Really get to know someone, because obviously the more time you spend with them, the more of yourself you're giving to that person. So you just want to make sure that the person you're spending time with is someone that you want to give that time to, I think. And, part of that is meeting different people and trying to figure that out. But when you really are trying to settle with one person, just, really take your time and talk about real things, about things that are important, not just the fluff, like the real stuff. I think that's super important too.
And she just reminded me that when we first met, the night that we officially met and started connecting, we literally stayed up all night long just talking and just getting to know each other. It was the sweetest thing. So I agree with what you said.
Sex and Sweets, age 23, I think.
I love that. I love that advice. And I'm sure me and Cam will both take that back with us. But we have now come to the end of our Bruin Table Talk. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you both coming on. We enjoyed having you. We enjoyed hearing your experiences together and what you guys like and what you don't like and all of those great things. But thank you so much for being on. It was awesome.
Yeah, just echoing Riz, thank you so much. You mean the world to our program and both of us, and have been like great role models in general, but definitely a great picture of what Black love looks like. And what Riz said, we're gonna be taking that advice to heart, and hopefully we'll be in love soon, in a sense. And like always, go Bruins.
Bruins.
Thanks for having us. Love you guys.
Yes, thanks for keep up the great work. This is awesome.